A lot of in high school kids will ask me what are my thoughts about people now going into pharmacy or starting pharmacy school. And honestly, I always say if you have even the slightest inkling of potentially wanting to be a pharmacist, work as a pharmacy technician, because you'll get to see a little bit of what the job entails before you go on this 6 or 8 or whatever year journey of going through pharmacy school. Because a lot of people have the idea of, oh, it's in healthcare, oh, it's a stable job, but you don't really know what they do until you really see it for yourself. And yeah, you might pick up your meds from a CVS, you might go to Walgreens, you might know an auntie or an uncle or somebody who is a pharmacist, and getting a description of what the job is all great and dandy, but most people don't actually know what pharmacists or interns or technicians do on a daily basis. So my advice to anyone who's thinking about pharmacy school is, yeah, it's great to read about it, but either try to shadow someone or maybe try to see if you can work as a pharmacy technician. So every hospital, every community, every retail store is going to be different. So what I say that I was doing at work should be similar to what other technicians or interns were doing, but it does differ based on what specific location you were doing. So where I was working, I worked at a hospital. My specific title was pharmacy intern. We used a lot of Epic as our main medication record system. And then in terms of physical equipment, we used Pixus to store meds on the floor. And then we used Carousel to store meds within the pharmacy unit. You can see the carousel behind me, and the nice thing about the carousel is that it will print a label and tell you exactly what med and how many of them need to go into a Pixus when it's running low or it's out of stock. So once this label prints, the carousel will turn to where in the carousel this med is located. You open the drawer, you'll scan the med, and on the screen it will say, okay, you scanned the med, and then you scan the label just to confirm that the correct med is what's being pulled. And then that's the 2 steps involved in taking the medicines out of the carousel. I'm opening a lot of saline bags and dextrose bags because floors go through them really quickly. So we usually open a lot of them at a time so that when we refill them, we take them to almost all of the floors. This is a med room. It's the room that usually houses a Pixus. It's usually kind of sectioned off from the busy areas of a nursing floor, so that way it's a little quieter and nurses can pull meds or prepare meds without getting distracted. So in here, I would come in here to come and refill the Pixus. So when things are low on stock or a patient med needs to be delivered, I would come inside this med room to come and refill this Pixus. A nurse would come in here because there's a lot of other supplies in this room which they could use for their patients, or if they need to prepare their medications, sometimes the vial needs to be attached to the bag, the pill might need to be crushed, or it might need to be cut in half. They can come into this room and do all of that. Similar to the scanning process that the carousel has, the Pixus also has a scanning process. So once you've logged in, you kind of decide, okay, am I loading something? Which means that I'm adding this to the Pixus as something that's going to stay here long term. That pocket that you're putting that med in gets assigned as this pocket will be holding this medication. What is the maximum number of meds that can be in here? And then at what number will the pharmacy get alerted that this Pixus on this floor is low of this specific medication, it needs to be refilled. If this particular Pixus was running low on something, the carousel within the main pharmacy would print a label telling you that you need to refill this many of this medication within this specific Pixus because it's either out of stock or it's running low. So then you would pull it from the carousel, scan it out, scan the label, bring it down to this unit where you would then log into the Pixus. You would scan the medication. You're entering it in as a refill. Once you've scanned the medication, the drawer with which this medication is inside pops open. Then the pocket which this specific medication is in will pop open, and then you can refill the medications that were low. Other things you can do with a Pixus machine, you can destock something. So if all of the matrix pockets are full, but there's a medication that you would like to load into this Pixus, you can open one of the drawers, select one of the matrix pockets, destock everything. So that means you're taking out that particular medication from that drawer and then restock your new medication. So you would be reassigning that pocket to your new medication. You can also do things like check inventory counts. That allows you to know the exact number of medications that's loaded or within that particular pocket. You can do things like check expiration dates. That allows you to make sure that all the medications that are within that drawer or that pocket are still within good date to be used. You can do things like open your patient-specific drawer. So usually there's a designated drawer or a designated section for specific patients' medications that will usually be assigned based on their room number to a specific pocket being assigned to the room number of that specific patient. A Pixus machine will usually have smaller pockets, so things like pills can go in the smaller pockets. Then they'll have larger pockets. You can kind of see the size also in these towers. Those are also considered the larger matrix pockets. Those are for larger things, so sometimes your vials, your IV medications, things that don't really fit in the small pockets will get assigned to your either the tower or the larger pockets within the actual Pixus machine. And then oftentimes fridge medications, so things that need to stay cold or refrigerated, will go along in the fridge. So when you're putting in these medications into either the tower or the Pixus or the fridge, you scan that medication, and then if it's not going into a closed pocket, if it's going into like one of these open containers or one of the open drawers, you scan also the barcode that's on the outside of that particular pocket or drawer before you put the medication in. So that way everything has its own assigned spot, and you can only access the med after either scanning to take it out or you're opening the particular pockets. While I'm at the Pixus, I'll look for expired medication. Sometimes the things that are within the daily IV bin may have expired already, so I'll take those with me. Things that are within the patient-specific bins that haven't been used for multiple days, I will take those with me. Or things that are within the pharmacy return bin, I will bring those upstairs with me as well to either put back in the carousel, and then the expired medications can go in the designated expired bin. This is one of the smaller enclosed pockets, so once you scan the medication, the drawer opens up. The particular pocket with which this medication is housed in will then open up. It'll ask you to count how many was in the pocket already, and then ask you how many you're refilling. Sometimes medications will come in really large bottles, so there'll be like 30 pills, 90 pills, 100 pills, or more within one large bottle. These will get unit packed so that they're in individual casings or individual labels, so that when nurses go to pull medications, they just have to pull one of these unit packed medications, which will have its own barcode on it. There's a lot of scanning involved, so you scan the medications to get them out of the carousel. You scan the label to make sure the amount of inventory that's within the carousel gets updated because the label tells you how many you're removing. You scan them when you're putting them into the Pixus. If it's in a pocket that's not enclosed, then you're scanning that particular pocket. All of this scanning helps because it helps keep track of the particular inventory. So you know how much of this medication is either being removed or how much of this medication is being entered into this pocket. Sometimes the counts are wrong. It could be because either somebody accidentally entered a count when they were refilling, or they took out too much or too little when they were pulling meds. So that's why every time you're going to refill, it will ask you how many is within that pocket already so that you can keep these counts updated. What's nice about this is that you don't physically have to go down to the Pixus to see this inventory count. You can be upstairs or just have access to a computer that has access to these Pixus accounts, log in, and see all these inventory counts on the website as well. So I've finished filling all the Pixus machines, checking the out dates, and updating the inventory on the Pixuses that are on the floor. So I'm going back up to the pharmacy to help with any medication messages that are on Epic to see if any patient-specific things need to be sent. Put back anything that I brought up from the floors downstairs into its designated spots in the pharmacy, prepare crash carts, and check expired within the pharmacy. I can also help with the unit dosing, so those large quantity pills or large quantity of liquids solutions that come in, I individually dose them into unit dosing, and I can help with those oral syringes that need to be made for patient-specific dosing. After a long day, it's now time to go home.